Our Security Operations Center has recently seen a number of investigative cases where the origin and start of malicious code that runs seemingly comes from absolutely nowhere. And this is encoded PowerShell. It's a small one-liner to kick things off, but there wasn't a clear starting process or persistence mechanism or initial access vector other than just explorer.exe, like your desktop. We could see the process invocation and the commands that were ran, but where did this all kind of come from? So our SOC analysts dug a little bit deeper and took a look in the user's web browser history. It seems like this poor user, the victim, the target in this case, was unfortunately following through a redirect chain all online. Maybe from a ad or pop-up or something that just flew open on their browser and maybe accidentally clicked it one way or another. I don't know, somehow they landed at tpb.proxyninja whatever, somehow leading to the Pirate Bay. And this was a redirect, right? This is a 302, HTTP 302 to send you to another site. Now, better ad system, apparently, and I've redacted some of the breadcrumbs here that might be unique identifiers for the victim. I can't say, I don't know for sure if they are or not. This is all looking back in retrospect, but just to be safe, I wanted to redact a couple of those bits. And then it brings them to a downloadstep.com with a notion of verify you are human. Finally bringing them to another location, the final ending destination, a static page posing as a fake CAPTCHA at humanverification4.bcdn.net, verify you are human. Now we can try and take a look at this, see if this is still live. Currently it's a defanged URL with X in place of HTTPS, a couple square braces around some important tidbits here, but we can replace those and open that up in our web browser, see if it's still online. Pasting in this URL, we can see if that brings us to the page, but oh, okay, thanks. BunnyNet has taken it down, and that seems to be the case for a lot of these that we've uncovered. And that's a good thing, right? Hey, the malware, the payload, the stager has been taken offline. But I do have a saved copy of what that page looked like, and I wanted to show it to you because it's a little bit interesting, and we can have some cool conversations from it. So if I open up that index.html, just a static page that this was present in, we can see that this is a fake CAPTCHA, right? Verify you are human. Please verify that you are human to continue with the classic I'm not a robot button. And if we were to click on this, it gives us some verification steps that aren't like the usual, oh, click the number of buses or motorcycles you see. Now it's actually press the Windows button and R on your keyboard, press Control V, and then press Enter. Now, I'm sure a lot of you that watch this channel probably know what this is and what this does, but for an unsuspecting innocent user, maybe they don't know. So if I were to follow those steps, if I hold down the Windows key and press the letter R on my keyboard, you can see we open up the Run dialog box. If I press Control V on my keyboard to paste this in, looks like a whole lot of nonsense, but look, I didn't put that in my clipboard. This is all base 64 and an encoded command to run with PowerShell. That is our stager. Now, if I were to hit enter here, this would invoke whatever the next stage is, pull down some malware, and invoke ultimately an information stealing malware family. Isn't this a little cutesy though? Like, I know it's dumb. I know it's the attack vector of copy and paste, but literally that's what it is, and it may very well work. So let's dig into how this happens and then what happens. If I actually close this out and get back to the original page, I'll just F5 to refresh. I can hit Control U on my keyboard or right click to view the page source, and this gives us the flat static HTML. Honestly, you know, it might look better in Sublime text, but that doesn't matter. Here we see a lot of cascading style sheets, just some CSS static boilerplate stuff that isn't all that interesting, just necessary for the display of the page here. HTML, which is nothing fancy, just the exact steps and a div that's displayed, little pop-up modal. But here's the JavaScript. Here's the client-side code that runs dynamically. And let me zoom in a little bit so you can see this, because this is where we get to some sweet stuff. You know what? I will bring this into Sublime text so we get some better syntax highlighting there. Take a look at this verify function. Know that it's built, but then at the very bottom, actually code that runs will grab the element of the verify button by its ID and then add an event listener. When it's clicked on, it calls this verify function. Now here's what it does. Defines text to copy, being the PowerShell payload that we just saw, and it creates a text area element on the document, on the web page, just momentarily, like a temp text area. After it adds this code and command the text to copy as the text area's value, it adds it to the document, selects all the data, and then runs this document.exec command copy. Now, I don't know. I think apparently, from what I've heard, this is like a deprecated thing, but still works, right? As all deprecated things sometimes usually do. ifconfig, I'm looking at you. Now this will literally copy data into your clipboard so that if you were to press Control V or paste in the copy and paste process, now you've got whatever the website staged for you. It cleans it up and then it just makes this display. So that is a tiny cutesy harness just to be able to get malicious code into your clipboard and literally social engineer and lure the victim into pasting that in. All in a dumb, stupid, verify you're human CAPTCHA. Would you fall for that? I know maybe you wouldn't, but is there anyone that you know that would fall for that? But let's grab this base64 encoded data and then really see what it is. Let me hop into Kali Linux just so I have a quick and easy base64 command. So if I were to echo this out and paste it, pipe it into our base64 tag D to decode it, we can see, ooh, it runs MSHTA, so that Microsoft Hypertext Application Interpreter, with a link URL here, so an external resource to click1bcdn.net/giga. GigaChad, look at that. Now the last that I saw, this was offline, or at least not serving the MSHTA payload anymore, but I do want to tell the rest of the story and give more kudos to our Security Operations Center and SOC analysts. Back in our notes, and forgive me, I realize these are just notes, we'll get into a little bit more fun, sexy showcase a little bit later, but after it reaches out with MSHTA to that click1bcdn giga, it ends up pulling down a binary and an executable that'll drop a training manager enterprise.exe into their local temporary directory in app data local. That is apparently Llama Stealer, the info stealing malware that I was alluding to later, but it actually injects into a native Windows binary to look a little bit more innocent, or presume innocence, right, with BitLocker to go. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but this is a real thing. On your Windows system, and I'll use the run dialog box with the Windows key and R just to get to that directory super quick, there is literally, genuinely, a BitLocker to go.exe that ships with Windows. After you drill down to that final payload, like the Llama Stealer and the executable itself, beyond the phishing lure or social engineering copy pasta, look, VirusTotal can tell you quick and easy, hey, this thing is bad news bears. This is Llama Stealer, this is everything that it might be seeing. You can see some of the details and other info for it, relations or behavior. That actually has a different domain or URL where that was coming from in previous submission. Community notes all in the mix here like, hey, this is Llama Stealer over and over and over again. But that was a bit of a lackluster demo. I would like to showcase a little bit more, and there's more to chat about here, actually. Recently, I was tagged in this post, or this little tweet over on Twitter, where Muhammad says, look, this is an interesting vector. Have you ever seen this before? And he notes me, including this exact same verify you're human, silly CAPTCHA, fake copy-paste, lure and scam that ends up loading Llama Stealer as we've observed. Somehow, some way, this post like explodes. That's got like 300,000 views and 3,000 likes, so that's cool. And I noted, look, we saw the exact same thing, and I was trying to decide, look, is this something that we should put in a video? Because it's copy-paste. It's not like the coolest, most elite tradecraft. Here is the screenshot, though, of all the notes that I was sharing with you just a moment ago, and again, all kudos and credit to our Security Operations Center SOC analysts that were digging into this, doing the real work. With all that said, I do want to extend an extreme amount of kudos to seriously all these SOC analysts that do incredible work day in and day out. So with that, please let me tell you about the sponsor of today's video and a super cool event that they've got going on, SOC Analyst Appreciation Day. Security Operations Center analysts are too often overworked and underappreciated. They're doing the most impactful cybersecurity work, but they're never in the limelight. So to help celebrate those SOC analyst rock stars, Devo is hosting the 4th annual SOC Analyst Appreciation Day. It's all to pay some long due kudos to our world SOC analysts and to encourage organizations to improve their job satisfaction and mental well-being. The online event is completely free and open to anyone and everyone. Live on October 16th, it is packed full with career-focused sessions, preventing burnout, secrets to success, day-in-the-life details for analysts and researchers, and so much more. I'll even be speaking on the rapid response efforts during the ConnectWise Screen Connect exploitation. I'd love to see you there. If you are a Security Operations Center analyst, or you're fascinated by the work and you want to become one, you should absolutely tune in to the SOC Analyst Appreciation. It's completely free, and it's a day dedicated to celebrate you and your great efforts. Sign up for the SOC Analyst Appreciation Day on October 16th with my link below in the video description, jh.live/SOC. Huge thanks to Devo for sponsoring this video. All right, now back at it. And I don't mean to be just scrolling through Twitter here, but I do really want to call out a lot of the community collaboration and just really cool insights that get to chime in from other people across the internet. It's a team effort after all. And there are a lot of different names or whatever different parties or groups call different malware strains and threats, whatever. Andrew Northern over at Proofpoint says these are called ClickFix, one of the major clusters that I track. Super sweet memeage back and forth. And some folks saying, hey, look, yep, saw that just a few weeks ago, way back on August 20th. Who said what? Who's always sharing some really cool stuff includes the very, very same Llama Stealer with a PowerShell dropper and even an AnyRun link to include. So way back on August 20th, you can see this. Russian Panda seeing the same, maybe some folks decoding that base 64. Squibbly-Doo, who we've had on this channel in a video before, actually notes, hey, this is actually apparently tracked as Emmental. Includes a orange cyber defense blog, so we can take a look at that one. A little-known loader distributing commodity info stealers worldwide. Ha, commodity, that's totally right. I'll include the links for this and all the things that I reference in the video description, so you can dig down into it a little bit more if you'd like. I certainly don't mean to drag us down the rabbit hole for each and every one of these. My good friend Jamie Williams over at Unit 42 shares the same. Looks like Unit 42 is tracking this just as well. They have a pretty cool write-up, or at least some of the indicators of compromise that show this. And look at all the pictures here. Like, they have a S3 bucket that hosts this. Same exact setup, PowerShell code that's copy and pasted, and communication back and forth over Wireshark they show. If you take a look at Unit 42's link, they do have some cool indicators of compromise here. This is less of a blog post, but more just kind of data dump, sharing some of the sweet stuff that they've seen. Did want to get that out if it's interesting or worthwhile for you. Jai Minton, who I work with at Huntress, notes it's kind of similar to this ClearFake campaign. He's actually got a video over on it. Note that is ClearFake, though. Separate, different, not Llama Stealer that we've been digging into right now. And I know everyone's going to laugh like, oh, hang on. There's a little bit of a Insane Asylum-ception paradox here. There's John! Bushido Token confirms and sees, look, I've noted that with Llama Stealer all in the action. Some other folks had a cool write-up and blog post. Did want to give a shout out to Tonmoy, who has a sweet article on it. The anatomy of a Llama Stealer attack via fake CAPTCHA pages. Really cool because you do get to see some other indicators of compromise or other domains, other little artifacts of their infrastructure where you see the same campaign. Okay, now I promise I'm gonna get off Twitter, but I did want to show you this sweet forensic artifact that another coworker of mine, another teammate at Huntress had shared. This is Mike, and he says, look, if you've got an AdlaBlue alert for some malicious PowerShell with no apparent intrusion, take a look at the Windows registry. You might be able to see in that user hive, current user if you are locally logged in as that, or HKU/whatever SID, or just the ntuser.dat. Software, Microsoft, Windows, current version Explorer, run MRU, and you can see if they fell for that CAPTCHA fake little scam copy paste into the Win+R run dialog box. Back in our Windows world, if we were to follow through following these verification steps, actually copy pasting the malicious payload in, we'd be able to see that back in our registry editor. Let me get to regedit, or we could use regcool, right, which I would totally recommend. Link to that on the desktop. Well, let's take a look at my current user's software, Microsoft Windows, this registry path, and see if we have a note. Note that I am logged in as myself, so current user is fine, but if you needed to, you could go to HKU rather than HKCU. Let me paste this in, and you can see just about everything that I've ran previously. Note this MRU list value is the one that actually indicates what order you ran each of these in, and they're all noted with whatever A, B, C, D, going down the list of the alphabet, I guess. But C being first in our MRU list, yeah, we just ran regedit, as you can see. Q that follows, well, remember I used that to open up the BitLocker discovery volume contents folder. These all end with a /1 trailing, but you can see just about all the history and maybe the malicious PowerShell command for a victim, user, SOC analyst triage if you're trying to dig into someone that fell for this. I think that's a neat little forensics breadcrumb. Hope that's helpful to you. Now, Mike had shown this to me with another example and another investigative case where we saw this popped on a poor user. They included a different encoded PowerShell command syntax here, so I did want to dig into that one. This is the encoded PowerShell that was ran for that scenario, so let's copy that and see what we can do with it. Nothing special here, let's just base64 decode as usual. We'll paste that in, base64 -D, and with that, a little bit more PowerShell actually being executed. IEX, that invoke expression alias, IWR, that invoke web request, and a new little lure here, where it's pulling down an a.text. Let's see if this is still live. Let me curl that, and it is. Okay, so a little bit more PowerShell here for us. We've got a web client object created. We can see it's grabbing a URL with a dango.zip, peculiar, staging that in our temporary directory. Oh, look at that. Actually, sorry, the DigitalOcean little droplet that's kind of hosting this. And not to say it's a droplet, but some way to host some files up there. Anyway, stores it in our temporary directory in a zip archive, downloads it, ends up extracting it with expand archive, and then stages this setup.exe. It's kind of funny to note this is totally an active campaign. Like, I wanted to see this and I kind of tested it last night. You can see it was downloading a peltgon.zip and would actually work with setup.exe without a hyphen there from the same sort of stager, that same IP address and file. But we might very well have different things, and maybe the setup or setup with a hyphen could be another payload. All with the same behavior. I wonder if we could try and track those down. Let's go ahead and see if Dango is still working for us. Let me wget that. Yep, pulled that down. Let me stage that into another directory, and then I can extract this. And oh, there is a lot of stuff there. Okay, this is all the very same as to what I saw just previously with the Peltgon one. If we were to upload Peltgon or Dango into a quick and easy online sandbox for some rapid analysis, let me put that on the desktop. I'll include the whole zip so we have all the file contents. I like to use Windows 11, and let's amp up the duration here. With that, let's try to do some quick, scrappy analysis. Totally pressing the easy button, letting the sandbox cover it all here. But now that that's starting to fire off, we should be able to see, here's WinRAR actually working with this. Let me extract this all to my desktop. We can put it in the exact same folder. It'll get all the file contents that we just saw as we extracted a moment ago. A little bit of an error there, whining, but that's just WinRAR kind of getting staged. If I now double click on our setup.exe, and I don't know how well you can see it, there is a little Python icon there. So odd that it errors, at least gives some error message, but it's still doing stuff. Setup.exe is now firing off strcmp.exe, a more.com being staged. We can see some connections back and forth here. And oh, searchindexer.exe kind of being created. But what will that do? That is one of the natural native Windows binaries, right? A lot like our BitLocker to go. And okay. Tracking down Llama Stealer with our YA rules. Big thanks. And we can see, yep, okay, even a configuration that it might be able to extract out all the same .shop domains that we saw previously just as well, with one of those other artifacts of domains that it took a look at. So we didn't have to work too hard here. Look, obviously our online sandbox is helping save the day, but if we were to dig into this, it's certainly gonna do some of the info stealer malware-like stuff. I did just want to show you that chain. I don't think we need to drill down into it, but I thought, ooh, neat. Injecting into yet another Windows native binary like we saw with our BitLocker to go, actually kind of staging some other things in between it, like our more.com in this case, like our strcmp getting dropped into some app data files and folders locations here. You can see in the connections and HTTP requests, even the searchindexer.exe executable, the one that looks real, legitimate native because it's built into Windows, is the one that's trying to communicate with this .shop random domain, obviously exfiltrating data back and forth. We can upload dango.zip to see the new stager or whatever other payload came through, but I'm going to assume it's probably the very same. I don't think there's going to be too much variation in what it's doing here. Let me extract all this super easy. We can just get the same files on our desktop just so we have all of the things that it might have used for its own execution. Start our setup-.exe. Yeah, this also does more.com as an intermediary. Ooh! Bacteriumpunch.a3x? Isn't A3x, that's not auto hotkey though, is it? That's like AHK or something. Whoa! Llama, of course, once again. Do they have new domains here? Can we see that, CFG? Oh, no. Same exact ones in the config. Bacteriumpunch.a3x is still an executable file. It probably just, yeah, ends up being ran as an exe. Oh, and a quick, by the way, another individual over on the Twitterverse had seen this exact same Llama Stealer stager, same sort of setup with Peltgon, strcmp.exe, search ender, the same thing that we just saw in the very first one. They note PS persistence in run MRU. I'm not sure so much as persistence, other than you opening the run dialog box again. Maybe it's still being in your history. You'd need to naturally hit enter on that. So I wouldn't say persistence per se, but at least some of the forensic artifacts with that. Some of the cool chatter and conversation that came from this, alongside their any run analysis, also notes the very same. And then they posted my thing. And I did want to show you this. I know the video is already crazy long, but I thought it's neat, and I hope you think it's cool too. So this was an insomnia project the other day. I just thought a lot of the chit chat around this was kind of cutesy. I know it's kind of silly being a copy paste lure, but you know what? It's obviously apparently working, and this has all been centered around the conversation that we've been having lately. It's nothing new, right? Obviously this is seen over and over. Copy paste, clipboard shenanigans, you could get anyone with this, but I wanted to recreate it with what looks like a real legitimate CAPTCHA, not the, oh, click button, verify you're a human thing. So this is me just kind of putting my hacker hat on. I know, a little toy and trinket, but I thought it might be neat. If I actually go download this code, it is something that's public on GitHub, so you can play with it just as well if you would like, with a reCAPTCHA fish, and let's go show it to you in action. I'm going to end up serving this just with a super simple Python HTTP server, so it looks and simulates like, oh, some hosted thing somewhere out on the internet. You don't even have to have that. It could just be the local index.html file. Because of the JavaScript that you saw in the client-side code, you could change that to run whatever you want. But if I were to do some social engineering for a little, I don't know, pen test engagement, red teaming work, looks like I've got my I'm not a robot CAPTCHA that looks as real as I could get it using the actual Google images, linking to the real privacy in terms, and when we click the button here, it says, look, complete these verification steps. A little bit of a better display than what you saw in the malware and infection chain. Look, press and hold the Windows key and R, press Control V, press Enter on your keyboard, and you'll observe and agree, I'm not a robot, reCAPTCHA verification ID 6119. So let me hit that Windows key and R. I'll hit Control V to enter that. And I tried to hide this in a cutesy, clever way, where there is a comment ending or trailing for our malicious command and payload. So that way, when you paste it in, you get the verification text just as you would see in that display. And I don't know, maybe that'll trick or fool a user because they're entering that. Obviously, if you were to move all the way back, you can see the next stage and payload where it'll use MSHTA in a very similar way. But if I hit enter on this, now we get our reCAPTCHA firing up, trying to connect to a reCAPTCHA server, which it might fail to keep up the charade Google icon. But you saw my code execution little proof of concept. We just popped open the calculator, but then you could do whatever you want because you're just having code execution happen by tricking the user into literally copying and pasting. Dumb, stupid, cutesy, but it would probably work. Don't forget, if you were to hop into the registry editor, you should now be able to see that. If I refresh this page, there is R added in for my MSHTA payload and everything that we just did with our I'm not a robot reCAPTCHA verification. Don't forget, that's a worthwhile forensic artifact and something that you, as a security operations center analyst, your SOC analyst, anyone else might be able to dig into to see some of these cases against Llama Stealer or anything else using this fake CAPTCHA, scam, lure, social engineering. With that, my goodness, this has been a longer video than I intended it to. I'm sorry, but I did want to showcase all those sweet things and help get some of that education and awareness out for you. If you liked the video, please do all those YouTube algorithm things, and please, pretty please, do give some love to our sponsors. I seriously, genuinely hope you attend the Security Operations Center Analyst Day from Devo. I'll be giving a talk there and chatting a little bit about some other investigations we got to dig into, some more rapid response stuff, and it'll be a ton of fun. So, all right, I'm done rambling. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.